take two. My camera kind of screwed up earlier. Anyway, hello guys, the name doesn't matter, and today I'm gonna talk to you about my current position, where I'm currently at, what's happening as of April 2026. So, initially, before the end of 2025, I created a 2026 goals, and in those goals, I wanted to see how much I can achieve, how far I can go, and what's my end of year position looking like compared to the predictions and compared to the goals that I made for myself. So let's first talk about one of the things that I've done so far, which is the blackjack engine. So let's just do a little demo. So the blackjack engine that I created is quite simple. Essentially, you create a configuration of players. So in this case, we have, where is it? We have these configurations. They're basically JSON files, and they essentially define the behavior of both the player and the game. There's quite a few of them. If you want to take a look at them, you can pause them, but they're not very interesting. At the moment, they're all essentially basic strategies. Where a player, for example, in this case, his current strategy is 14, meaning that the player will, if they reach a value of 14 or higher, they will no longer bet and they will no longer draw cards, they will instead stay. If you don't know the rules of blackjack, I'm not going to go through them, but essentially, the basic part is 21 is the maximum number you can have, and if you hit 22, you essentially lose the game. Okay? And it's about drawing cards. So let's just do how many simulations? So let's do 10,000, just to show you what it currently looks like, and then you select your config. So the config essentially is like a predefined rule set for the game, and it also predefines the players. So the players are seeded with seeded strategies, and basically what you can do is essentially test what strategy works and what strategy doesn't. Let's go for strategy number 3, which is default strategy 16 stand only. And as you can see, we're playing a lot of games, and in total we played about 10,000 games. If you look at the bottom, there's a player scoreboard, and it shows the win rate of each player. What's really interesting is that in this scenario, all the players have similar strategies and they have a similar win rate. What becomes really interesting is that the more players you have, obviously the win rate goes down for each player. But what's not very intuitive is that you essentially have to play a more and more aggressive strategy. So if a game of blackjack, like in this case, is one person against all the other players, the more players there are to play, the more aggressive your bets have to be. You essentially have to bet that you get 21. Let's say there's 200 players. Essentially, you always have to bet for 21, otherwise you have no chance of winning the game. So yeah. Anyway, that was the engine. You can do quite a bit of calculations. We can do more than 10,000. We can do 1 million if we so wish. 10,000 took about 1 second to do, so 1 million is probably going to take us 2 minutes or so. So we can do a different one. Let's say dealer stand only. So in this one, the dealer cannot bet. So the 2 cards that the dealer initially gets, those are the only cards that they're allowed to use. So the games are going to go on. I'm going to let it play in the background, and then I'm going to explain my second project. So the second project is essentially a charity website that I am building in conjunction with my friend. We're starting a charity. Don't worry, I don't want you to donate to us, not yet anyway. And essentially in this charity, we're just going to help vulnerable people, especially vulnerable adults, when it comes to cybersecurity, so they don't get scammed. So let's just open up the app. Let's take a look at what it looks like. So let's run it. So I'm using Docker Compose. Unlike the previous app, which was completely written in .NET and exclusively in C# and no frameworks, basically nothing was used outside of XUnit. In this case, we're using Redis, Postgres, Django, and I think that's it for now. Maybe something else that I'm forgetting. But let me just pull it up. Let me just show you what it looks like. So if we go localhost, nope. That doesn't work either. That's our domain, but that's not what we want. There it is. So this is essentially the website. We have some documents. These documents basically go through what we stand for, what we're doing, that kind of stuff. There's a document viewer. You can download these files. They're all downloadable. Currently it's localhost, of course, so I'm downloading from my own machine to my own machine. There's a login page, which we always have a seated user. So this is one of the seated users. And if you're an admin, you also have an access to an admin panel. There's a donate button, which allows you to donate. By the way, what's really interesting here is that the testing part of the payment works, and the payment is aware that I'm using a real debit card. But what's really interesting is because we haven't registered yet as a charity, I'm actually unable to update Stripe to use a real secret key. So therefore, I'm not actually able to do real payments. So even though this, in theory, works, and it will connect you to Stripe, it only works as a test, and it will not actually handle real payments, which is quite interesting. So besides that, we also have an admin panel. It's just a Django administrator admin panel with a couple features bolted on. It's nothing really crazy. We have an audit log. Audit log, obviously, just an admin panel. Forgot about that. So if we go here, it shows every request that's done. I kind of rushed it. I don't really like the way it works at the moment because you can't resize these bars, but for now it's good enough. Because it's far more important for us to store HTTP requests than it is to actually view it at the moment. So this is just basically for basic security. Like, let's say we think that something has happened, there's some kind of breach, we could use this audit log, or at least the audit logs database, to figure out whether or not a breach has occurred. Because let's say someone has hit our API endpoint 50,000 times in 1 second. However, that's not going to happen because we have this security log. Now, I can't really show you this without simulating network attacks, but essentially, there are some IP rules that we created in the middleware. Do I want to show you? I can't find. I'm not going to show you this one. Basically, we created some IP rules and some SQL statements, and if our middleware, security middleware, sees any of them, any attempts, the IPs will be banned immediately. I have done basic testing on this, but I've only done it on localhost, so I got myself banned a couple times, which is quite funny. But I'm not entirely sure how well this is going to work when we publish it to the internet and put it on our domain. So we'll see how that goes. Other than that, there's not that many features on here. Yeah, you can go to admin panel, take a look at all the users. As you can see, obviously there's no one here because we haven't registered yet. But yeah, there's also like a little audit log here, so we can see their most recent activity. But yeah, these are the 2 projects that I've been working for on the last 4 months, which out of those 4 months, realistically, I've been doing projects for about a month maybe. So the other 3 months or so, I've either been doing additional learning, reading books, or focusing on driver's license / certification. So let's take a look at the previous one. So Household Wins is finished. It took not even a minute. It took 57 seconds to play 1 million games, and as you can see, the dealer wins roughly 82% of the time. So that's what that engine does. So these are the 2 projects I've done so far. So let's go over what I promised in the 2025 video. First is the minimum achievement. The goal was to finish this book here. The goal was to finish this book. This was the primary goal, and this was almost kind of like the minimum goal that I set out for myself to do. What happened? Essentially, about 80% of the way through the book, I realized that it's far more important for me to do a certification for my job. So I started focusing more on the Azure Developer Certification. The issue is that around middle March, we learned that this certification is getting deprecated. And that is an issue because, well, then I don't have to do the certification. So I kind of sacrificed a good chunk of my time on this and was quite a bit stressed and wasn't very happy with my life, only to shelf it because the certification is getting deprecated in July. And now, some things have happened that I will discuss later that I no longer want to learn C Sharp. I'm no longer as motivated or interested to do so because I want to move on to Python, where this project was made. This is written in Django. It's all Python, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and it has no C Sharp whatsoever. So let's go on to the third one. How am I going to achieve this? So this is pretty much the same as the previous time. If you watched the previous video, I actually do this daily breakdown and weekly breakdown. I have, in the weekly breakdown, I say that I need to do about 3 sessions a week to be successful. I am currently anywhere between 4 and 6. I started with about 9 or so, but now I'm between 4 and 6 a week. And I'm quite happy with my progress, and I'm quite happy with the way I do things. So that's been quite a success. I also said that in a week I need to study about 5 hours a week. I definitely achieved this. Over the last week, there was like a day where I did 9 hours worth of studying. And by studying, by the way, I mean both either reading a book or building a project. So building a project is part of studying. So I'm quite happy with this. The daily breakdown, I do it sometimes. In January and February, I did it every day. But over time, I kind of felt like this isn't that important as long as I achieve the weekly part. The monthly part, the reading of the book, that hasn't been so successful. Anyway, aspiration goals. So, the blackjack engine is done. So I give myself 25 points. I'm quite happy with that. I'm quite happy with the way it works. It's not perfect. It has some flaws. There's some things I could iron out, like automatic victory if for player 2 if player 1 loses. I don't really have that, so there's a scenario where both players can lose, or both players can win. Both players can lose, and that's kind of not how blackjack works. But overall, besides that one minor situation, I'm quite happy with the engine, and it does fulfill what I really wanted it to fulfill. Reading of the books, so that's kind of been a weak point and kind of been the thing that I haven't been doing that much. It's not that I haven't been reading books, it's more that I haven't been finishing them. And so, if I'm reading 5 books and I'm not finishing any of them, the amount of knowledge I'm getting from them is not as much as if I finished one book. So overall, that's been an L. Losing weight, I've lost 2-3 kilos, and that's also been an L. I'm not too happy with that, to be honest. But then again, I've kind of had a really interesting last 3 months. So overall, I'm not too depressed on it because things have been moving really fast in my life. And now let's have the April retrospective. So the first 2 parts I already discussed. Let's talk about 3. So, end of February, early March, I had an interview with a much bigger consultancy. It was the biggest consultancy from the country that the consultancy came from. And the pay was significantly better with the technologies I wanted in the field that I wanted. And the worst part was that during that interview, I did very well. I was very liked. Well, at least I thought they liked me a lot, and I did really well. But the problem was that I really shat the bed when it came to the practical part of the interview, where I was given a DSA Python test, and I just failed. It was catastrophic. It was super embarrassing, and it led me through this like a week or 2 period of time where I had to rethink my life and rethink my next steps, because I can build all these projects day and night, and I can build 15 projects, but it's kind of irrelevant if I can't pass an interview. So at the moment, I'm kind of interview maxing, and I'm solely focusing on passing interviews. So one of the realizations was that, and I really want to talk about this, is that I was given every possible opportunity to succeed in my life, and I still haven't. I realized that during my second year, I interviewed at a quant, and I chose not to continue interviewing there because I got a better position working at the police department, and that actually has happened a few times. That also happened at a well-known security company, uh, and then that also happened with another bank during the same period of time. And during a similar period of time, I also interviewed at a bank and failed the interview in the exact same way that I failed at that consultancy that I just spoke about. And things like this made me realize that I've been given every opportunity and I've been failing because I'm not as competent as I need to be. I'm just not competent enough. So I need to work on becoming more competent. And on the failed interview again, projects. At a certain point, the project you're going to build is no longer going to make your CV better. If your CV is good enough to land your interviews, you need to pass the interviews, correct? And how do you do that? You do that by having interview prep, doing the essay, doing system design, reading books, and then only building projects. Um, yeah, I need to build less and learn more. Lastly, I learned I wanted to work with Python. I feel like it's the only language that I actually really want to work with, and I feel if I don't do it, it's something's missing from my life. Um, that might change in the future, but that's currently the position I am right now. Um, will I achieve these goals? I'm gonna be honest with you. I think I won't be achieving most of these. Driver's license is not happening because I'm no longer focused on driving. Far more focused on getting a mortgage and setting up myself financially. The books I really do want to read, and I think I might end up reading at least one or two of these books, but I doubt they're going to be these books or any of the books here. It might be something else, but it's not that it won't happen. I just wouldn't bet on it. Um, yeah. And then what are my next steps? My next steps. I need to do lead code DSA. I need about 200 or 300 questions would be good enough, and then start interviewing. Um, yeah, interview for a Python role, web dev, cloud, scraping, testing. Doesn't really matter. It's just important that it's Python. Um, yeah, I want to be a Python software engineer, and I need to find a Python role. So that's it. That's my current April retrospective. I tried to cram everything in one place. There's probably a ton of things that I forgot to say that I wanted to say, but that's where we're at right now. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.